In the mimer is lArba a boitkin is a chometz la'oir. We're discussing the concept of searching for one's own chometz to the light of a candle, which represents the light of the neshama. And Moshe, correct me, but we're on page 164. Is that correct?
Yeah, 164. Paragraph Hey.
Paragraph Hey. Let's go. V'zehu. Su'umar minechem. Lift your eyes upward to heaven, Uru'u, and see mi bara eila. Who created these? Sheme'eila, from these, Shehu ha'isavos, referring to the creation. Im heyois, although Shezeu rak ma'ores Hashem havayim b'shem Elokim, although creation, as we see it now, is only a glimpse. You understand, page 164, Perik Hey. So, although
mean way into being constantly.
I understand, you're innocent, but the translation that I use, that's used in most English translations, is the one that I used. I mean, it's no contradiction.
The word bara means created.
Yes.
It means bring into being.
Bring into being. Okay, let's use that. No problem. That this idea that the world as we know it now is brought into being, that is only from a mere reflection of Hashem's infinite light. Because if we were to experience Yudke Vavke Avram, God's infinity, we wouldn't have a finite world. It's impossible. So what did Hashem do? What does Hashem do? He filters his infinity through, which is Yudke Vavke, through Elokim, which is nature, or tzimtzum, contraction. That's the standard explanation brought in Chasidus. That's what he says here. Aval al kol ponim hina yidai yisavos yoidim espinas hamisha bara eila. Says the Rebbe, notwithstanding this, through this process we know the who brings the creation to being. There is the me, the who, God, infinity, atzmos, essence. When we look at the world, we perceive a sun, a moon, nature, but that itself, and so we perceive a limited God, a restricted God, but it points to someone who is beyond restrictions, who creates and brings to being the restrictions. So take, for example, when you look at a child, a student, if they're a proper child and a proper student, you should be able to tell who their teacher was. You could tell from children who the parents are. That's the same idea. The children are the children. They are their own individual, they have their own individual self. But if they're groomed properly, raised properly, everything else, or not properly, you could tell faults of the parents or virtues of the parents. You know, we tend to disregard that, but the truth is that it's all about the parents. The Rebbe wrote in one of the letters that I'm publishing in this upcoming book, the doctors. So the Rebbe writes to a doctor and his wife who moved from Cincinnati, Ohio in 1962 to the Muncie area so that they would have a kosher chinuch. Until then, they were going to a co-ed school. And the Spring Valley Torah School opened up in Spring Valley, it's the Muncie area. And they moved there so that they could give their children a chinuch, an education that was not co-ed. And they wrote to the Rebbe with a kind of a happiness, and the Rebbe responds in a letter, "Congratulations, I'm very happy for you, but," what's the but? Chinuch begins at home. So the fact that you're not going to a co-ed school, that's great, but if the chinuch at home is not proper, then the fact that they're going to the school is secondary, and this has been time tested over and over and over. So I'm saying you take this as an example to understand what Chasidus says, what we're learning here. You look at the world, you look at the Bria, and you see a filtered God, a filtered energy, a limited force. Says the Rebbe here, look at the words. Avol al kolponim, but at least, hina yidei ayisavus. Yodim esprinas hami, you know the level of the me, of the who, shebara eile, that creates this limitation. You realize that this is a result of something far greater. Hainu shamiti saisavos uba'atzmos havaya, which means in terms of creation that the true ability to create comes from atzmos, from the essence of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, not from Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the infinite God, because as we discussed many times, infinity itself is restricted to infinity. What we're looking at when we talk about the essence of creation, we talk about transcendence known as Atzmos. That's why he writes here, Atzmos of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And then he adds the words, Achdus Pshuta, complete Achdus, unity, where there is no ifs, buts, whys, hows, definitions. It's all one. Hashem Echad v'ein sheni. This is the truth. Avol Mitzrayim, but our subject matter is how do we get out of this Mitzrayim? What is the concept of Mitzrayim? Hu meitzar mi. It's the restriction on the me. The same me of the verse, mi bara eile, who created these, this me is part, Yonason, of the word Mitzrayim, meitzar mi. The me, the who, the atzmus is a prisoner, is meitzar, is narrow, is confined, is restricted. We can't access the atzmus, top of page 165. The mi hu b'chinas bina. Kabbalistically, we learned that me is the level of bina. Bina, right? Chochma, bina, understanding. Bina, Moshe, is expansiveness, analysis. To understand something, bina. Umeitzar bi, and when we talk about the restriction, the confinement of me, who this means, shebchinas me, who bebchinas meitzar vehelen. This means that the level of me is restricted and concealed. You can't expand. You're stuck to the same routine. You're doing something good, but it's limited. The same old stuff, like my old childhood diary. What's special about today? It's a regular day. Tomorrow, it's a regular day. And the next day, it's again a regular day. Is it a regular day every day? Of course it's a regular day, but every day is infused with some life and message. Meitzar mi means this idea, the new idea, the exciting idea is in captivity. And when it's in captivity, we become old, stale, bored, and many times we get into trouble because we look for ways out, excitement. You can't just be the same food. My father always says, I can eat a piece of chicken and a piece of bread and a little salad for 35 years. Well, he was groomed that way in Europe. Most people, after a week of the same chicken, I can't handle it anymore. Meitzar mi. Right? We need to have a new. You ask your wife, why are you making the same supper again? Give me new supper, a different kind. I'm sick and tired of the same food. So from the most minute aspects of life to the most creative aspects of life, there's the concept of Meitzar mi. Meitzar mi. That's Mitzrayim. You want to know what Mitzrayim means? I'm stuck. And you could be stuck in Torah, you could be stuck in Chasidus, you could be stuck in serving Hashem. The feeling you're stuck. Because Bina is the element and the aspect of man that's expansive through analysis, through study, through more information. And when that is stuck, it's like, I don't know, Baisha, we're both in creative fields. It's like when, what new idea can I bring to the art? What new idea can I bring to the book? I sent out a suggested cover to my children to hear their opinion, and one of them commented, it's like the same 5 book covers that your designer made. The last 5, they're all the same style. And I said, you're right, because they're a series, so I don't. That's what I want. I'm fine with it. Besides that, he's not the world's, he's a good designer. He's clean, and the price is right, and he's efficient. And for me, that everyone knows what works for them, right? Then you have someone who could take a year to design something, a half a year. But when it comes out, it's mashahu. That's great. That's another style. The point is, whatever a person's style is, Avram, you need to have vitality, music. You're a musician. To find a movement of a niggin, of a composition that's fresh, that's new. That's when you release the me from its meitzar, Mitzrayim. Meitzar mi. When you release your me that was in captivity through the restriction. Let's continue inside. The Isa ben Lekutei Torah Maharizal and the previous Rebbe brings here from the Lekutei Torah, not of the Alter Rebbe, but there's a Sefer of Lekutei Torah authored by the Holy Arizal, or said to have been the collection of sayings based on the Arizal that Reb Chaim Vital recorded, his student. Shemitzrayim dikdusha hu meitzar hagorim. Okay. There's a concept of Chasidus, right? We have a head, we have a body. What connects the head and the body? The throat, the neck. The head is expansive. The body is more expansive. The neck is tight, right? It says Kabbalah Chasidus, this is the idea. There's a Meitzar Hagorim, where the filtering process that was expansive in the head and will be expansive in the body gets narrowed down in the throat, in the neck. And when that happens, we have a reduction of the expansiveness of the head. And that we call Meitzar Hagorim. Now let's see how the Rebbe develops the idea. The idea is the hine leidas hamidas hein ma'moichin. how do midos, how do emotions, how are emotions born? The Leda, it's mehamoichin, from the mind. You think about something, you understand it, you develop either a love, a hate, a fear, compassion, etc., to that issue. Shemitzrayim uveyoisam mehusim chalukim, since mind and emotions are very different essence, the essence is very different. The menucha, one is peaceful, menucha, rest, and the other one is hisrakshus, emotionalism, excitement. Shemoichin uhusam bitul. Moichin, the mind, it tends to be subdued. Umidais, and emotions tend to be murgish, felt, regesh, emotional, exciting. That's why there needs to be a neck, a bottled neck between them. And this is what we call Meitzat Hagorin, the narrowness of the neck. The Sham Misalem Shefa HaSeichel. It is there that the flow of intellect is concealed, umishapech, and transformed, mimilhus seichel, from the DNA of it being seichel, limilhus midos, to the DNA of it being now midos. Moshe, let me explain. How can it be that intellect should become emotions? It's intellect. And yet we say that when we understand, when we have mochin, seichel, intellect, it develops a midah. How? How do the two work? One is the world of calmness and subservience and quietness and stillness, etc. And one is the world of excitement and emotions and feelings. The answer is there's a neck process. This neck process, just like the physical neck, the actual features are narrow in the body of a human. It takes the seichel and it causes the shefa, the flow of intellectualism that one gains when one is engaged in understanding something intellectually, and it narrows it down. It filters it in a way where what you're left with is the end product. You know what the end product is, Yonason? It's good to love. It's good to despise bad. It's good to have compassion. That's the end product. That's not, one second, Yonason. That is not the bulk of information that leads you to believe that. All that's in the seichel. But if that aspect of mind would be present in the heart, you wouldn't be able to have an emotion because it would be overwhelming. It would not, the intellect would obscure the feeling. And by the way, sometimes that happens. Why is it that sometimes we don't feel? Why? Because we're too smart for ourselves. Meaning, we allow, I don't mean it in the colloquial way, I mean it, the mind understands the intricacies of the idea and it blocks the feeling. The feeling seeks to walk away from the intricacies and be left with the bottom line. This is good. This is bad. Therefore, I love it or I hate it. Where is it? And how is it that that there is a transfer from mohus, what he calls mohus ha-seichel, the essence of seichel, to the mohus ha-midos? It's like the neck. There's a process in between where it's watered down, filtered down. Okay, let's take now some questions or comments from Yonis. Yes.
the Hasidic word Bachain. Bachain means the Stachako. So what? So what now? Well, what do we do now? So when you think about something, for example, you think about loving your father. So therefore what? So now what? Now what? Now I'm supposed to bring him a cup of coffee, or I'm supposed to feed him.
Yeah. So what do you say? So what aspect are you addressing? The Mayach or the Lev?
I'm addressing the process that goes on in the Mason Hagoyim.
And in the Meitzer Hagoren, you're saying that that's the place where the Bechain is born. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Now what?
Okay, but I just want to add, it's not the Bechain, it's not the bottom line Bechain in the physical world, it's the Bechain within the brain.
No, that's good.
What?
Yeah. It's like the end of middle, end of seichel.
Right.
So you went through the whole intellectual process. Now what?
Yeah, right. Now what? The seichel asks you, now what? The intellect itself asks, so what?
Now what? Now what am I supposed to feel? Now what am I supposed
And that is the beginning of emotion that will be experienced in the heart.
Now that's correct.
Avram, do you follow what we're saying?
Yes, I understand. You're saying pretty much that your emotions are the offspring of your intellect.
That's one thing we're saying. What about this concept of Meitzer Hagoron that we've been talking
That
about?
when it comes from your sacral, comes from your, and then it gets constricted in your throat and developed, then it comes from your heart,
Right.
and generates emotions.
Right. So,
But you got to have the ability to feel something.
yes.
Sometimes it gets stuck in your throat and it doesn't go any further than that.
That's right. That's when you choke. God forbid.
Right. So I had this issue actually many years ago when I was learning Chovos Halavavos very deeply, and the concept that everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is for the good, even if it appears to be difficult, even if it appears to be a challenge. And I said, so how do I feel if that's true and I understand that and I believe that? Then how do I feel the pain of somebody who's suffering when intellectually I understand that ultimately it's for the good?
And what determination did you come to?
Well, I was told, so I was told that to understand that the person is suffering, also the Shekhinah is suffering with that person. And that intellectually I should understand that the Shekhinah doesn't want to suffer, that I don't want the Shekhinah to suffer. And so you have to, although yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu may feel that it's necessary for this person to undergo the trial, you still have to feel the pain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Shekhinah, feels for having to put the person through that challenge, and for the person himself who's suffering through that opportunity or tool, as it may be, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving.
Right.
It's still tough because it does choke. Because I wanted to say one other thing, just as a comment that I was thinking, because I never heard this concept before of me being associated with Bina, but we say Nun Shari Bina, and me is Gematria of Nun, is 50. So
And therefore what? What's your point?
I'm just not that therefore, just as a comment that I had never heard me associated with Bina, but it makes perfect sense with the Nun Shari Bina.
Okay. Going back to what you're saying and what the Shara B'tochen says, is a very important sikha if you want to follow up on that. In volume 36 of the Kutei Sichas of the Rebbe, Parshas Shmois. I forget if it's the first, second, or third sikha there.
It's in Yiddish or in
Hebrew? I believe in Hebrew. And there he really tackles the whole idea of bitachon. And if my memory serves me correctly, he even goes one step further than the Shara B'tochen. According to the Shara B'tochen and what's classical Jewish belief, you say that the situation as it is now, I trust it will be good. Right? That's what B'tochen is, right?
Mhm.
So what does that mean? Is it good right now or not?
It's necessary right now.
It's necessary, but is it good right now? The answer is no. And the Rebbe, based on different ideas of Chabad Chasidus, says that there's a deeper level. It's not a contradiction. The Shara B'tochen was talking about.
So the Berditchever says that Hashem only sends good, right? It's only good.
Oh, so that on those lines, Berditchever was a Chassid, was a Rebbe, right? Baal Shem Tov. That it's not that it will be good; it is good. And that's
This is the dilemma. Again, this is the intellectual dilemma of understanding that.
okay.
And then,
So, first of all, as soon as we say the intellectual dilemma, it's not a dilemma. You know why? Because intellect itself is a definition. How do you expect a defined concept, i.e., intellect, to understand transcendence? It can't. It can experience it if it allows itself, if it puts itself aside, but it can't understand it because the confines of intellect are intellect. So the most it can do is, as you said earlier, what you said earlier is to use rational explanations to explain what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's the bittul, and this is the accomplishment of Chasidus, it's the bittul element that's the only vessel for feeling that it is good now. And if you're unable to identify with the bittul element in your life, you cannot come to the position and to say, I feel it's good. That's the question. So when you started to say, you were told, I was going to interject, but I let you finish, is I don't want to hear about what you were told. I want to hear what you feel. Of course I want to hear what you were told, I'm just saying. But you have to then, after you hear what someone tells you, you have to now process it in your own mind and in your own heart. And then you have to ask yourself, how do I, in other words, and to work on that. It's an avodah. It's not, it doesn't come eating potatoes,
I'm still working on it.
No, good. We're all working on it. No, it's a very hard, but what I'm leading at is that the working on it is the bittul, and that will make it mesh. That will make it be part of you where
I would say, even speaking very personally here, it's easier for me to do a chesed for somebody than it is to feel the pain of that person. I feel my own pain, but it's very difficult for me to feel the pain of another person.
So
I can understand it. I can try and do anything I can to help that person, but I'm missing that emotional attachment.
Okay, and
But isn't it more relevant when it's someone that's closer to you than a stranger? Are you able to feel people who are close to you's pain more so?
But I think that the ideal is to feel that for everybody. I think the goal is to feel equally, everybody's pain, and I think the people naturally feel that more when people are close to them in their chevra, that circle of friends and family. Yeah.
And
But some people's constitutions are more cold. Some people's constitutions are more warm. Some are more intellectual. Some are more emotional. And I'm just speaking very much personally that emotional component of attachment to other people when other people are going through an experience is something that I wish I had more of.
and
What I do, yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
And there's only one way. I mean, there's the Eibishter can do anything, and Hashem can ruach yarel ruach memorim. God can place upon you a feeling that's beyond you, and you get that. But in the natural course, 1 second, Jason. In the natural course of things, it's only through bittul that you really you really allow Hashem in, and that you could feel another person. Otherwise, it's impossible, because Adam, Gemara says, it's a Gemara, Adam karavetz alatzmai. A person is closer to himself, so he thinks about himself, his flesh, and his needs before someone else. Comes along, Chasidus, Baal Shem Tov teaches us that that's true, but it's not the way to really bind with God, with Hashem, in a way that gives you the ability, as you say, to feel someone else's pain. You have to get rid of any trace of self, of yeshus. And yeshus doesn't mean being a balgaiva necessarily. The sense that God owes me something. That and entitlement. Entitlement goes from, gross items to very refined things. And we are raised and born into entitlement. Everyone. In cultures like Russia during Stalin's times and hard times, entitlement was less. Why? Because the culture helped dissolve entitlement, because you didn't have what to eat and you didn't have where to sleep, and they were going to kill you. So automatically, it right? But the Rebbe, in the last mimer the Rebbe gave, which he said in 1981, and I recall hearing, I was in Los Angeles as a Shliach Bacher, and I remember the Rebbe said there a line that rings in my bell till today, and the Rebbe said, we see that the same people who had Mesiras Nefesh in Russia when they came to the free country, America, Canada, Australia, England, Eretz Yisrael, etc., they don't have that same sacrifice. What happened? And the Rebbe says, you know why? Because it wasn't who they were in their essence. It was imposed by the culture. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. Because if it was who
the Soviet Union was about the collective.
What?
That was the communist model. It was the collective.
Yeah, right. So that's why when they come to they're back to the very self. And the back to the very self, it's all about self. So Chasidus, and that's why Chasidus is on this topic daily and thousands of pages. It never stops. Why? The Litvaks, asked this question. Rabbi Gifter asked it to someone to ask the Rebbe in different ways. Why does the Alter Rebbe speak in chapter 36 about making a home for Hashem? He quotes one medrash, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe came along and makes of this medrash all of Judaism. So Rabbi Gifter, who was a massive Talmud Chacham and everything else, he questioned. His question isn't treif. Lubavitchers get all bent out of shell that he's an antagonist. He's not an antagonist. He's the logical question. It makes a lot of sense, this question. What's Chasidus? What's Baal Shem Tov? Baal Shem Tov is the whole idea of questions and answers is klipa. Or is limited, is a definition. So you're approaching yourself and Hashem and Torah from only one angle. If you find subservience and you're buckle then there's room for the Eibishter to come through you, and there's only the Eibishter. If there's the only Eibishter, if God has pain, is for the Jew that's suffering, that's your friend or your spouse or someone else, etc., then you can't rest, because their pain is your pain. They have a cut, it's like you have a cut. They're down, it's like you're down, and you can't function. And when they're happy and they have a simcha, the previous Rebbe writes about this too, it's your simcha. The saying by Chasidim is, "Mizenem brider," we are brothers, bruder. The Baal Shem Tov created this concept of brotherliness. Anash. What does Anash stand for? Anshe Shlomeinu, which isn't a Hasidic term. But Chasidus and Chasidim took it to another level, in the sense that it really means we're all one. And if we're all one, my bread is your bread, or better said, your bread is my bread. See, that's one Hayoim Yoim. You must remember that Hayoim Yoim. Chassidim say, dein Stickel Brot is deiner wie meiner. My piece of bread is yours as it is mine. And he says, first it's yours, then it's mine. And only that way can one feel what you're talking about. And if not, so not. and that's the avodah. That's the avodah. The avodah is to be completely bottled and to realize that everything that is done is good. Not only will be good, it is correct. Yes, you're innocent.
I faced a lot of difficulties in my life because of my disabilities and all that stuff. I can relate to people that have disabilities because I have a disability myself.
Right.
And when I talk to people about the way I feel about my disability, sometimes they don't know what you're talking about because they never have one themselves.
Right.
So when I talk to somebody else that has a disability, I know what they're going through because I'm going through it myself.
I understand.
And it's impossible for me not to feel something because I'm going through it myself.
Right.
So just like on that level, we have to try to go through the pain that people go through and experience it ourselves in order to have empathy for it.
Right. And Isser is not disagreeing. Isser was just saying that he he's not there. He struggles with that, and everyone does. He's not disagreeing. He's saying you're right. But the question is, how do you get there? How do you?
You get there by relating to that person the feeling that you struggled with yourself.
Okay, so the idea that you struggle yourself means bittul. In other words, who am I after all? Who am I? That person has a physical disability, and I have this type of a disability. But so I agree with you. What's the question? But if Torah says v'yohavta l'reyacha kamoicha, and the Torah Hashem would not charge us with something we couldn't accomplish. That's a no-brainer, because otherwise it's an oxymoron to God. God doesn't give us more than we can handle. That's part of God. That's part of Hashem is kind. So obviously, if He says v'yohavta l'reyacha kamoicha, love your friend as yourself? How? This is the question. How? And the answer is by us, we not seeing ourselves as other than our friend, but we are one with our friend. Happens to be we with two bodies. We were born to two different parents, and what I'm saying now is Pedek Lamed Beis and Tanya. The lArba asked this question, and he gives a very beautiful and important answer. Hagufos muchulakim. The bodies are separate, but the neshamas are one. Now you see, you need to think about this. You need to meditate on this. What does that mean? And when you reflect on it, you understand it, and then every day, and you experience, and you'll experience, and then you'll do something about it. Not just lip service, but you will start thinking about the other person. So it is not easy, like Isser said. No one disagrees, but it's attainable. It's attainable, and people who work on this ultimately are, nicer people. In other words, but it takes you got to get rid of the yeshus. You got to get rid of the self, and this is easier said than done. And this is why we need to fabring together. What a real fabringen is like about getting to this. Everything else is, it's like a veneer, a show. Okay. Hey, you like to have some good entertainment. You have some good entertainment. A good speaker, a good l'chaim, a good kiddush. Okay. But then there is, feeling the pain, feeling the pain. But I want to say is not just feeling the pain, feeling the simcha too. Really really feeling someone's simcha, that their happiness is your happiness. How many people? One more second. How many people have this sickness and illness? In Yiddish, we use the words "they ken nicht verginnen." Verginnen means they can't tolerate that their friend has
somebody else has it.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? That's coming from the yesh. The yesh, exactly. So that's in the most coarse form. But then there's a very, okay. So as long as we, talk about these things, fabring about these things, and, we're on a good path, The lArba understood so well that a potential Beinoni, I thought about it last night. Every time I think about it, I'm like, wow. In other words, he knows we're human beings. He knows we struggle. He doesn't expect perfection from us. But he says, work. That's work. There's no excuse. To not work on yourself in various ways, that's not excusable. To not accomplish and have ups and downs, that's very normal. Chapter 27 in Tanya talks a lot about that. L'kach notzarta, quotes from Pirkei Avos. You were created. That means your entire being and why you're here is to work. Yonis says this ability. Hashem created him and to deal with this issue. What is that? And now when Hashem sees that you're dealing with the issue, he says, that's it. You're in. You're great. There's a disability. Yeah. That we don't know. We don't understand that Hashem has his cheshbonis, and we're not looking, But and the same is true without the physical disability, with the spouse we choose and the kids we have and the work we're at. It's all part of the same idea. So initially it's very hard and it's very, uncomfortable, and we don't like it. And we scramble here and we scramble there, and we do this and we do that. At the end of the day, when you're already tired and exhausted and you have no makayach, you say, maybe God leads the world. I said after the Rebbe passed away, Gimel Tammuz, I said, what's the hardest things for us Lubavitchers is to accept God. Who took the Rebbe? God? No, wait, who took him? Angels, souls, celestial beings. Hashem takes a person. So now that we're that some Lubavitchers, had these issues and all that, so you can't accept God. You don't like what God did? Well, send them an email, send them a fax, go to TikTok. I don't know, do whatever works for you. But you gotta surrender. You gotta surrender. And when you surrender, you become very happy because it's all the right. It's all right. It's all right. And it's not just all right because I don't have another answer. It's all right because that's the emes. The emes is ein oid milvadoi. Not the emes is that I have it bad now, and one day it will be good. It's deeper than that. That's what the Rebbe says in the Sikh in volume 36 of the Kuti Sikhis. Based on what you said also, the Barditchever. It is good. It's not that it will be good. It is good. But how can you tell me it's good? Oh, so find out how it's good. Allow God into your life. You'll see how it's good. Hevra, we verbringed again. Baruch Hashem, we learned some Chasidus today. Moshe, you haven't said a word. What's your thinking?
It's probably not fair for me to chime in at this point, but I've been struggling with everything that we've been speaking about. I appreciate very much. There was a situation that happened here. I found out subsequently in the neighborhood on Shabbos that I'm not going to go into any details. I don't know that many details, but unfortunately, there was an adult father in the community, not far from Eish Kodesh, actually, who unfortunately took his own life on Shabbos.
Wow.
In a particularly disturbing, the circumstances. It's a very disturbing situation. It's not a normal situation. Not that any situation of one's taking his life is normal. This one, I must admit, when I heard about it and some of the circumstances, I was a little bit shooken up, and I still am. And as a Gaba, as a person in the community, as a Gaba in particular, so I'm, I've said this many times, like my eyes are always very open to be, try to have my finger on the pulse of the community people. And I'm really trying to search for answers, how to even be on the lookout for telltale signs of a person who's an adult in pain. We're kind of used to like teenagers in pain, but now, or young adults in pain, but now like adults in general. Which of course I know that's there's no chiddush here, but how to talking about a father of 5 children, like exceptionally disturbing. So why am I bringing this up? Because we're speaking about everything we're speaking about. I'm still sort of like I've caught up and I'm holding with what we're speaking about, but I'm still way back over here thinking to myself like, there are there's probably a number of people right now who were exposed to this, what I'm speaking about, and who are like it probably is like really, really shaking them up. And the whole aspect of, let's say, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's bringing everything we're talking about into another realm. And I'm not sure, on a very deep level, I'm aware, of course, with everything we were speaking about, that everything that Kodesh Baruch Hu does in this world is good, but a little bit more on the what's the word? On the surface level, so to speak, I'm trying to make sense of how to, what can be done to help people, what can be done to help people.
I hear you say, yeah. And
Also, I just want to, whatever, I'm going to say it because it's, when we talk about suicide, I just want to say for a moment, so I was speaking with someone yesterday about this issue, and he's someone who is involved in, aware of a lot of issues related to this young people, unfortunately, taking their own lives. And one of the things he mentioned to me, he said, most of the suicides in our communities happen on Shabbos. He said even if 50% happen on Shabbos, that means most happen on Shabbos.
right.
This particular incident I'm speaking about, let me back up. We're used to the concept. We're used to suicide happening in, let's say, more of a private setting. Unfortunately, what happened this Shabbos, unfortunately, the person took his own life in a public setting, which is like exceptionally. I'm not going to go into any more details right now in this forum.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons that I'm specifically troubled by this, is because if a younger person especially was witness to this, which could have been, and even not a younger person, just again, the idea of just trying to help to.
I don't have the answers. I understand.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer. All I can say is everyone needs to become people's friends, confidants, friends. One. In other words, I don't know if it would have stopped the suicide. I don't know. Mental illness is serious.
Yeah, there's clear that there was mental illness there,
but I think there's not people don't have someone that they feel they could talk to, who they trust, and sometimes the mental illness is such that you can't do it. You just feel you're trapped. You can't do that. But many times it can be done and it wasn't done. In other words, I'm not talking about really, like soul to soul, one to one, where you share with someone your pain or your issues, and so you ask. I've said it all over and over in the yeshivas, in the girls' schools, and now in the community. This person, I don't know. Yeah, did he have like one real friend where he would talk to about everything and anything, or not? And did one of his friends understand that was important to become that person to him and give themselves over? And that takes a lot of time and energy and willingness. And I understand why many wouldn't. I relate to that. But that's, again, at the end of the day, there was a young lady in their 20 or 28, 29, who came from a beautiful Chabad family out here, and she committed suicide, and she left a note. She couldn't handle it anymore. And I'm telling you, they took her to all the best therapists, and they worked with her. It's here, Rahman Litzlan. I mean, this is what profession. So sometimes, Moshe, what I'm saying is, sometimes it's like inevitable. Unfortunately, it's inevitable. But there's plenty of times when it's not inevitable. And all one needs is a good friend, is a confidant, to hold their hand to take them, to walk with them, to take them on a trip. And once they feel your trust, it'll help. It'll help. So, it also, so I guess what I'm saying is, and I'm not the professional, it depends on how much of mental illness the person has. I mean, Isser, I understand you're a doctor. I don't know if this is your field, but
it's a very, 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 very complex. And I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. I'll tell you personally, we had a neighbor who committed suicide, and her husband asked me to go next door and talk to her. And she said all the right things, and I asked all the questions that they teach us to ask. Do you have a plan? Do you want to hurt yourself? And she answered all the questions the way that I would say, I don't see that, there's an emergency here. And she took her life. And in many ways, somebody with true depression is a great actor, because they go through life pretending that they're okay and pretending that they're happy, when on the inside they're just in so much pain and they can't express it to somebody. So what you're saying is true, but also I think that there are cases where it's beyond our ability to help, as much as we would want to, as much as we try. It's a very serious illness.
I know.
And for people to do it on Shabbos is not a surprise either. And non-Jews, when the most common time for non-Jews to commit suicide is during their holidays.
Really?
Because holidays evoke tremendous emotional response. This is either a time when I should be and I'm not, or I don't have. Shabbos is a very Halik time, and that's the time of the greatest joy, but also could be a time of greatest pain for a person who's struggling with whatever the issue may be, if it's religious, if it's non-religious. So it makes sense that these things happen on Shabbos, happen on Yom Tov, happen on Yom Kippur.
And would you say that medicine for people with severe, suicidal ideas and thoughts and all that can help them, if they stay on it all their life?
It's one piece of the puzzle. It's one piece of the puzzle. Medicine is necessary. Therapy is necessary. Having a supportive environment is necessary. And when people are mamash, truly suicidal, they need to be watched 24 hours. They need to have the means of suicide taken away from them. And it's a whole thing. Moshe, I can talk to you more privately about some things.
We have to end with a freilige Sache.
That's right.
A happy thing. We don't want to end with this.
I'm sorry. Well, forgive me. I wasn't going to bring it up.
It's all right. It's all right. That's part of our learning together.
Really, that's what a chavrein is about. Having a chevra. These are the that should be talked about.
Yeah. Listen, the Eibishter will help that people. The Eibishter, at the end of the day, God, it's you. If someone's not mentally well, make them mentally well. Help them. So we need to be mechazik our betochen and amun and the Eibishter, and at the same time, like Moshe and Issa both said, you got to be down to earth and practical, And Moshe is saying, how do we pick up the signs? How do we pick up the signs? And that's Issa said also, whatever. I don't have the answers. All I know is that we have to engage. And I'm telling you,
our job is to try.
But sometimes I say, why am I butting in? Why am I mixing in? What the person, and if you have a chshad, if you have a concern, and a suspect, you got to get involved. And whether they like it or not, or they'll think you're a nudge or not, in a smart way, of course, but don't stand it. Get involved, because at the end, it's too late. It's too late. So get involved. And the same is true. We're talking about suicide. Let's talk about people who don't marry. The question is, how many family members and how many friends and how many rabbis, how much was done to get this person married? It's like a question. I don't want to say he's a rabbi. He said, at the end of his life, he says, I feel guilty. I didn't help my brother enough to find a shidduch. At the end of the day, the person makes their own choice. But there is, as the years go on and someone becomes, more single and more years and more years and more years, it's like we have so much going on. So I'm saying this idea of engaging and involvement with people. I'll give you another example. A guy comes into 770 with a lot of kids, and the kids are running around making noise. And some of the chevra there start chastising him. What do you bring your kids to shul for? They're running around like wild animals. My father-in-law of Shalom was standing there. My father-in-law gave it to that person who made that comment. He said, do you know about his Shalom bias? Do you know if he has food to eat on the table? Maybe this is a little respite that he took the kids out so his wife can sleep, so he can have better Shalom bias. This is the idea that we spoke about earlier, putting yourself in the person's predicament and shoes, not seeing just what's outside. And the same as with these issues that we're discussing, So, like you said, engaging, trying, and really involving ourselves. And there are times people don't let you in. They don't let you in. They put up a block. So even then, you do your best. Okay. Have a great day. We'll talk tomorrow. We'll learn tomorrow. Sei gesund. Bye-bye.
Sei Mensch.
Take care.